Hey, what's up everyone? Tim here from Everyday Tactical Vids. Today we're going to be looking at a new knife from a new company. This is the Giant Mouse GMF2. So in the knife world, you may be familiar with the names Jesper Voxnaes and Anso. These are two well-known designers. Basically, they combined in this collaborative effort with another gentleman and have struck up this company called Giant Mouse. So both Vox and Anso, as they're often known, grew up in Denmark, spent a lot of time in the outdoors, out in the woods, and when they designed this knife, the GMF2, they said, let's make a knife that would have been, similar to what we were carrying when we were growing up and doing things out in the woods. So this thing is going to have a lot of function, and the cool thing about their designs is while they are not custom designs that they are hand making, they oversee every part of the production process. So the blade steel selection, the handle materials, they're watching the whole process, they're involved all the way up to the sheaths and even the packaging. These guys are very, very involved in the process. So it's not like they give a design and then they disappear. From beginning to end, they're involved with what the Giant Mouse company is doing and what they're making. Let's talk through some of the details on the knife. Your blade steel is N690 Cobalt high performance powder steel. It does have a fine stonewash finish. It looks just like a normal satin blade, but if you look up real close, you can see that it does have a bit of that stonewash finish. Now, as reference here, the bottom one has the stonewash PVD finish, and you can definitely tell it's got more of a kind of gray or almost moving toward a black finish. This one looks much more like a satin finish. They're calling the top handle, they're calling that green micarta, and this one has more of a brown look. I would say it's kind of in between a green and moving toward the brown as well, but you can make your decision which one of these you like based on the finish on the blade and the color of the handle. Your blade length is 3.62 inches, that's 92 millimeters, and your blade thickness is 0.157 inches, and that's 4 millimeters. Your handle length is 4.43 inches, and that's 112.6 millimeters, and your end-to-end length is 8.12 inches, that's 206 millimeters. Now your weight for the knife is 4.1 ounces, that's 116.23 grams. This thing is really lightweight, super maneuverable. And yeah, I would definitely call this a companion knife when you're heading out into the woods. It's lightweight and maneuverable enough that you're gonna be able to use it for a lot of different things. Here's a look at your sheath. It is made in Italy. It is leather. There's no locking mechanism, no snaps or anything like that, but it rides down deep enough in the sheath that it's very secure. It is a little bit hard to remove the knife from the sheath, but that's good because when I'm out hiking in the woods or doing something in the outdoors, I want to make sure that this thing is not falling out when I climb over a log or something like that. And here's a close-up of the sheath. You got that Giant Mouse logo up there on the top, and there's the backside. Here's a look at the knife in the sheath. And I can take the knife out easily, get a hold of it, use it, and then slide it back in to the sheath. And you can see, once again, it does ride down nice and deep in the sheath. So I'm going to give you just an initial impression that's like what, 5 seconds, 10 seconds of using this. I can already tell you that the handle, just the way it's formed, the ergonomics, because it doesn't have a ton of grooves and such, I like that more already than some other companion knives I've used. Sometimes you get these over-angled, over-textured knives for a small knife. For something like this, I just want something that's relatively comfortable. And yeah, this, I can already tell that this is more comfortable than some other companion knives I've used and tested out. So I'm just, messing around with this wood, cutting it a little bit, just to see how the knife feels in its initial use here. You can see that we've got a little bit of texture there to give you a little bit of grip. And then there's some jimping up there on the spine so that you can hold the knife like this. You can choke way up, put your thumb up there as you're actually, doing various cuts. My tendency is to choke way up on a knife, but this one, as I grab it, I'm like, yep, that's where my hand wants to fall, and that's where it should fall. You can also see I've got large size hands, and I still have room there. There's the lanyard hole, so I could put a lanyard on there if I wanted to, but it's not like my hand is falling off the end of the knife like this. large size hands, and this that little kind of hook there at the end is nicely rounded, so it's not cutting into my hand. Sometimes you get a knife that it feels fine up here, but at the bottom it's cutting into your hand. This is definitely comfortable as soon as I start using it. Let's do a little bit more detail work here. Just maybe carve a notch or something like that. So there you see, very quick work. Do a couple more of those. So there are a couple more notches that I just carved. And yeah, again, I said it earlier, but maneuverable. The knife is small enough that you can kind of angle it. You can use different portions of the blade, you know, right near the handle, also up toward the tip. And I'll show you real quick, it's got a nice thickness up toward that tip, so it doesn't get really, really fine. It gets fine enough to do some little detail work, but I'm not worried at all. You know, if I obviously jammed it into a tree and pried it, that's not what it's meant for, but I don't have any concerns about using this, you know, to get that fine little detail work up with the tip, because it definitely looks strong enough to actually handle that kind of work. Once again, there's a bunch more notches that I just carved into this piece of wood. I want to show you real quick using this piece of wood. That spine is pretty rounded, so as I'm doing this, you're going to get a little bit of, you know, maybe some small curls or some little shavings, but it's definitely I'll test it with a fire steel in a bit, so it'll do a little bit of work, but it's not a 90-degree spine. And pluses and minuses to that. The idea is that it's going to be more comfortable when you hold it, because it's not going to cut into your hand. The minus, obviously, you know, if you want to do this type of work on wood, you're not going to get as much reward for your effort. And then again, we'll test it with the fire steel to see how that spine actually does. Now, as I said, I see this as a good companion knife, a good camp knife, just based on its size, the steel, but it's also going to be a good utility knife. If you can carry a small fixed blade, this might be one you want to consider. So let's do some of those kind of utility tasks. We'll cut some cardboard, we'll cut some paracord, and then actually have an old towel here. We'll cut through that as well. Nice clean cut. The cardboard is just so floppy, I gotta slice into it first before I can actually cut it. Yeah, I mean, these are giving nice clean cuts on the cardboard. If this was laying down on a workbench or something, it'd be much easier to do. But so yeah. Once it actually gets in, it's good. It is a little bit thick, you know, getting through this cardboard. It's not a huge hefty blade, but once it gets in, it's doing the work. We'll cut some paracord now. And as I would suspect, no problem. There you go. Here's an old towel here. We'll test this out now as well. Yep, no problem. And again, nice clean cuts here. It's not shredding the entire thing terribly. It's cutting quite well and cleanly. And this thing is semi-frozen too, as you can see from the snow on it. But it's definitely doing the job. So I'm out here in the woods walking, and got my light my fire steel and the GMF2. What I can tell you is that up toward the tip, you can get a little bit of a spark, and on that jimping right there a little bit, but it is quite challenging. So I wouldn't want to in rough weather, you know, or late at night when it's dark out, have to work this thing to get a spark off my fire steel. So fortunately, my fire steel does come with a striker, but I'll show you real quick. With a little effort, you can get some sparks, but yeah, certainly not built for that. And again, I said this earlier, but I like the rounded spine because I'm going to be using it for detail work more than anything. I'm not going to be probably using this as a survival knife or, you know, geared up to start a fire. So just remember, if you're using this and you expect to use it with a fire steel, just bring a striker instead and you'll be good to go. Let me show you what it actually looks like to try to strike the fire steel with this. So as you see, you can do it, but it's not showering sparks. And yeah, I would definitely want something that could catch that spark quickly, that's got some sort of accelerant in it, you know, like a quick tinder or something like that. But anyhow, this GMF2, I'm out for a walk here. I didn't plan on spending a lot of time in the woods today, but I did go out for a walk. I didn't plan on necessarily spending a lot of time reviewing this more, but this is the knife I grabbed because I've been enjoying it. And yeah, I'm gonna continue on with my journey now. All right, guys, we're back in the studio, and we're going to wrap up here talking about the Giant Mouse GMF2. Now, I have used this a bit more and been, just testing it out in the woods. So I'll roll in some footage here so you can see some of the other cutting I did, making traps, things like that, carving in general. So what are my thoughts? First thing is that for a knife this size, I'm always thinking about comfort, because a knife this size says to me, use me a lot for fine work, detail work, carving, etc. Now, it's not necessarily a carving knife, but I think it should function well in that way, and I think it does. I like that they don't over texture the handles. There's not a ton of grooves, etc. These three, they will give you a little bit more traction. I was kind of actually looking at them today and wondering, why do they put them where they did? Your middle finger, at least my middle finger, falls right there, and so that gives you extra control of the knife. So yeah, as far as just day-to-day tasks in the woods, EDCing, if you want to EDC a smaller fixed blade, I think the GMF2 is going to be a good option for you. Let's talk about the steel, the N690. So having used that quite a bit on this knife and some other knives as well, I do like it. It's not going to be like an S30V or something like that, but it is a good steel for, I think, what you're going to be doing with this knife. So being out in the woods, getting it kind of nasty and grimy, doing, cutting wood, doing tasks out there where it could be damp, moist, etc. I do think that N690 is going to hold up. It is going to be more, I'm always, it's like saying something is waterproof. I'm like, most things are water resistant. It's going to be more resistant to moisture, so you shouldn't have as many issues as if you had like a 1095. Now, for any person who's a knife enthusiast, there's different pluses and minuses of all the steels. But having used N690 and having used it out in the woods, I do think it's a good steel, relatively easy to sharpen up as well. So I mentioned this before, but this is a companion knife for me. It falls into that size, it's got that style, that look, and then with the sheath here, it just has that kind of classic, like, take this out into the woods, throw this on your hip, and now you got a knife that's going to run really the full gamut to be able to do some more heavy cutting and then some smaller detail work. It's not going to do batoning. It's not going to do a ton of aggressive work, though you did see in the footage there I did baton some smaller pieces of wood with this. But yeah, if you're not thinking about a hardcore survival knife and you want a knife that's unique and going to fit into this type of companion category, I would definitely check this out. Now, there's a couple other details I want to mention. One is just a reminder that you can get it in this stonewash finish. Again, it looks kind of satin, like it's satin finish, but does have a slight stonewash finish, I guess I would say. And you can also get it with this, what they call their PVD finish. So it's just darker, again, to compare the two. So you can see what that looks like. This is the lighter. They kind of shimmer in the light there, but the lighter and then the darker. I asked them to send this along just for comparison so you could see it. So I haven't used this one, but function, everything's going to be pretty much the same. It does not look at all like a traction coating to me. It should be just as smooth going through wood, carving, whatever the case might be. Now, another detail about this, at the time of this video, which is in March 2017, I just heard from Giant Mouse that around April, at some point, they're going to be doing another run of these knives. And I do want to mention, which I don't think I said earlier, but they give $20 of the profits from each of these knives to a fund called Save the Children, which is a nonprofit just helping kids around the world. So not only are you getting a good quality knife that's got a unique design, that's got that, the idea that it's not just something that's mass produced, but it's got kind of that individual care from two well-known designers, which, speaking of, let me just show you, I just got this the other day. Here's the Batum. This is a CRKT design. This is the full size, and then there's a compact as well, designed from Voxnaes. And so anyhow, back to the point, which is you're getting a cool knife, you're getting a cool design, you're getting a cool story behind the knife, and you're also helping some kids out with a donation, $20 of every purchase of these knives. You're going to be helping kids around the world. So price point for this is going to be $165, and for the GMF2 that's got the darker coating, it's going to be $185. Cool knife. I've enjoyed using it. And this is going to become a knife that's going to be in my rotation regularly when I head out into the woods. Again, I don't look at this at all as a like survival knife. This is a knife to use in a lot of the average tasks that I find out there in the woods. And I've been saying this, I feel like pretty frequently in recent videos, that while I do like a big hefty, survival style knife, I found more and more that a small size knife like this can do, 90%, sometimes 95% of the tasks that I need a knife to do in the woods. So GMF2 by Giant Mouse, and it's been fun to use. I'll put links down below over to their website so you can find out more about what they're doing and other gear and knives that they sell. And then as always, I want to invite you to subscribe to Everyday Tactical Vids if you haven't done so already. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, check us out on Instagram and Tumblr as well. Take care.